Welcome to Component.Studio 2. We're on the complexity level 3 demonstration project. This one we're going to create a classic childhood game that you're probably familiar with. Now I want to warn you, do not do this. You should make your own games, don't make somebody else's games. I'm not going to use any trademarks or copyrights in here, but still make your own designs. Don't copy somebody else's. Today we're going to, like I said, learn complexity level 3, so we're going to get into topics like images. We will import from a Google Sheet. We will also use some of the easier features of the templating language so that we can do some more advanced things. Now, if any of that scares you, you might want to go back to the first 2 episodes where we did a flashcard system and a trivia system. We also have a couple more advanced topics coming after this one. So come in at the level that is comfortable to you. That said, let's go ahead and create our game. We're going to call it 1. And we will go into create a design. We'll just call that cards. We're going to leave type poker deck here. We're going to keep it as vertical orientation. We only need one back. All the faces will be unique, but the back will be the same for everything. And we should create a new data set. We'll go over here to data sets and we'll go ahead and edit that quick. Now, again, we could enter our data right here, but I told you we were going to import a Google Sheet, so let's do that. We click on the CSV button up here and click Import Google Sheet. Now that's going to ask us for a URL from Google. This little blue button here, if you clicked it, would tell you exactly what you need to do to format a Google Sheet so that it will work as part of the import. I'm not going to click that. Instead, I'm just going to demonstrate it for you. So what you need to do is set up a sheet. It must have a column called quantity and another one called name. That name column, it's very important that has a type of plain text. So we want to set plain text on that column type. And again, I did that by clicking up here and hit plain text. That's very important. Otherwise, things like, in this case, we've got a number 0. That would come across as literal 0, which means it wouldn't even show up when it gets exported here. So it's very important that that is set to plain text. The other thing we want to do, and you may want to do that with your other columns as well, if you have 0 values and things like that in them, we want to go over and make the this entire row up here, we want to make that a header. How we do that is we select this gray bar right here and drag it down. And so now this is a header row. And the reason you know it's a header row is if I scroll here, those stay there while everything else goes under it. So now that it's a header row, that's the second to last thing that we need to do. The final thing that we need to do is click share, and we want to change this from to the one where anybody can access it. So this is public. So now it says anyone with the link can access it. You can either hit the copy link here, or you can go up to your browser URL and grab that URL there. So all of those things that we just did, making sure we have a quantity, a name, a header row, making sure that the type is plain text, and doing share, all of that stuff is stuff you only need to do once. And then from then on, you can edit as much as you like over here, and you can just keep re-importing into Component.Studio. But we need to do all of those things that first time with this sheet. So now that we've done all that, we will go back to Component.Studio. We'll paste our URL in here, and that'll give us the button so that we can pull in fresh data. So I'm going to do that. It's going to ask us, are you sure you want to do that? Because it's going to wipe out any data that we had in here. So I'd say yes, and it imports all of our data. So now that we've got that in here, I think the next thing we should do is upload some images that we're going to need for this. So let's click this image icon up here. We'll create a folder. We'll call that images. Then we will go over here and hit this plus icon here, which will allow us to add images, import them in. So I'm going to just highlight these 5 images here, hit upload. And now we've got our images imported. The other thing we want to do here while we're in the data set, we want to set this column type. This will remain after, even if we keep re-importing, but we need this column right here to be of type image. So I'm going to click here. I'm going to change the column type, and then I'm going to change this to image. And the reason that's important is because now we can see these little icons here, and Component.Studio knows that this is a URL to an image, and thus to treat it as such so that we can use it as an image in Component.Studio once we get into the designer. We're going to do one other fancy thing here. I should have mentioned this at the outset. We're going to use something called enumeration. Enumeration basically allows you to type less and do more. And how it works is you would create a column that will have comma separated values in it. And so like here, we've got red, blue, green, yellow. What that's going to do is allow us to make multiple rows out of one row. So I want 1 0 card. You can see the quantity is 1 for the name 0 for each of these colors. I want 2 1 cards for each of these colors, and so on, as you go down the list. Now when we get to this one, I want 4 of this, but it's only going to be black. So you can see how that goes. So how we do that is we set the enumeration here, and we're going to set it based on color. So now when we get into our designer, these individual rows where these are comma separated values are going to become multiple rows. So right now it shows that we have 15 rows of data, but it's going to show much more than that when we get into the designer. So let's go into the designer now. We click back here, we click designs, we click edit, and we're loading in. And remember, I just said we'd have a lot of these. So now if we look out here, we've got a 0 for red, a 0 for blue, a 0 for green, a 0 for yellow, etc. That's way more than 15 rows of data right there. So that's what enumerations will do for you. They will give you create multiple data out of one little thing, and that's a very useful and powerful feature. Okay, with that, why don't we design some styles for this? So I'm going to go up here to the style manager, and you know what? I'm going to get rid of all of these styles. I don't plan to use any of the ones that Component.Studio creates automatically for me. So I'm just going to delete all of those, and I'm going to create fresh styles. So the first one that I want to create is, and again, styles are for formatting text. So the first one I'm going to create here is going to be center. So the center of the card, how are we going to format the font that goes there? I want that to be this bold font. In a subsequent video, we will show you how to add fonts from our library of 4,000 fonts or to upload your own custom ones. For here, we're just going to use the default fonts that come with Component.Studio when you first create a project. So I'm going to go with bold. And the other thing I want is I want this really big because it's going to be in the center of the card. So we're going to go 300 pixels. You can see how huge that is. The next one I want to do is I want to create the corner. We just did the center, so now I want to create the corner, what that looks like. So we're going to call this corner. We're going to go to font here, and we're going to once again select Arrow Mode Bold. I want it to be half the size though, so we're going to go with 150 pixels. The other thing I'm going to do is make it white. Now this is going to be a little weird because now it doesn't show up here, but I will show you a little trick. You can use a different background color for your example. So if I switch this to black and I go back up here, now it's showing it to me so I can see my font even though my background is the same color as my foreground. Now I don't want that for the rest of these, so I'm just going to switch that back to white. Now we'll go ahead and hit create style again, and I need to create the 4 colors of cards that we have. So I'm going to create blue, and then I'm going to go into font, and I'm just going to type blue here. Now I could use funky values, use the swatch creator thing, but I just want to use the named colors for this because I'm going to get to do a neat little trick with it. You'll see here in a little bit. So we're going to go ahead and create another style. We need to create a green one. And again, we're going to just do the same thing that we were doing before. We're just going to go in here and type green. And then we can close that one out, create a new style. We'll make this one red. We'll go into the font and make it red there. Good. And then we'll create one last style. We'll make that yellow. Good. Oh, wait, we need to actually give it a color. So let's go over here, yellow. Okay, so there. We've made our different colors that we need for this game. We've made our different font choices. So now let's go in and actually start creating some content now that we have the basic setup out of the way. So the first thing I want to rename this group to be background. We're going to use lots of different groups in this one. So we'll start with background here. Let's go in and use a box to create a background color. Now, I should probably rename this to face background, something like that. We want to, not border, I want to go into fill, and I want to change the color of this fill to not be red, but actually get this from our data set. So I'm going to go to row over here, and I'm going to choose color, and I'm going to paste that into this field then. And so now if I switch between red and blue and green and yellow, I'm actually getting all of my different card colors in my background here. Now with this game, you can it has some borders on the cards. I don't recommend using borders because they tend to show any drift that would happen during the production process, which happens, you can see magic cards that show this off because it has a border on it. Designs without borders show less problems. So I don't recommend doing this, but I'm going to show you how to do it anyway, because some people want to do it regardless of what I say. So how we're going to do that is we're going to go open up border here, and we're going to set that to type color. And I'm going to actually I'm going to turn off the little frame here so you can see. There's the yellow background. So when I put this in here, I'm going to make this a 75 pixel border, like so. Now, its position is currently middle. So this stroke alignment, 0 means on the inside of the box, 100. So think of it kind of like a percentage. 0, it can go from 0 to 100. On the outside of the box, it would be on the outside of the box if we went to 100. So if I do 100, you can see the border is all the way outside. In this case, since this goes to the edge of our card, you can't even see the border anymore. But as I bring it back, you can see it coming in just a little bit, right, as we go. But I want it fully on the inside of our box. So I'm gonna actually say 0 here. And now you can see that the border goes all the way, that full 75 pixels. It's shown in this particular case. So I've set the position of the border, and then in this particular game, the border is actually white. So I'm going to change the stroke color to white. And now with that's there, I'll go ahead and turn on our frame again so that we can actually see our template with all of our pixels and everything. Okay, so we've got that. The next thing that we need to do for our background is we need to create kind of this offset ellipse in here. So I'm going to hit this. I'm going to hit orb, and we're going to call this our center spot color. That'll be good. And what I want to do is I want to make sure that this stays centered regardless of the other things that I do to it. So we're going to use some cool little functions here. So we're going to choose center me X. And when I paste that in here, it's not going to change anything because we're already centered based on the other parameter that's there. But that wouldn't be the case once we start changing other things. So we're going to put this in here. So this means in the X direction, left to right, we're going to remain centered where we are positioned. Then we're going to go over here to the top, and we're going to do the same thing, except we're going to do, function. We're going to do center me Y. We're doing it in the Y direction, up and down now. So we're going to remain centered no matter what we do. That's good. The next thing we want to do is actually change the width and height of this thing. It's too big currently. So we want to be 475 pixels wide, and we want to be 830 pixels tall. So now it's fitting where we want it to fit. It remains centered as we're doing stuff. And the next thing we need to do is rotate this thing. So we're going to do 28 degrees. So now it's still centered, even though we've offset it by 28 degrees. And the last thing we want to do is I want to change the fill color here to white. I want it to be white and just always be white no matter what. So we've got our face background color. We've got our center spot color. I think that's done with our background at this point. We'll go ahead and smush that down. Now, we're going to create a new layer group. So I hit create. I'm going to name this one to be top left corner. So there's our layer group. Now we're going to start adding some stuff to it. So up here in this corner, we're going to add some text. So I'll hit text. And the thing I want to do here is I want this text to just be in this upper right or upper left corner. So I'm going to turn on the outline, which shows up here. So that way we can see that we're going to get it placed right where we need it to be placed. So I want the width of this to be 200 pixels and the height to be 200 pixels. So now we've got this little box in our upper left corner here, which is good. That's what we're looking to do. And then we want to get our actual text in there rather than this kind of built-in text. So let's close position and size, go to text, and we're going to pull in the text from our data set. Clicking row, we're going to say we want the corner text to go in this spot. So now this is a 0 card, so it shows 0. If I go to a 1 card, it shows a 1. If I go to a 5 card, it shows a 5. That's what we're looking for. Okay. However, that text up there isn't formatted how we want it to be formatted. So we need to do some manipulation on that. So we're going to close this one out. We're going to go to text formatting, and we want that text to be centered in this box that we created. So we're going to put this to center. We're going to put this to middle. And now it's in the middle of that box, which is great. That's what we are looking for. But it's black and you can barely see it because it's tiny. So we need to change our style to one we created before, which is our corner style. So now it is a big white letter. That's exactly what we're looking for. And if we went to, like, let's say the draw 2, it would have that text in there, etc. So we're doing exactly what we want done. Okay. Now, we want to, oh, you know what? We should turn that outline off. We don't need that anymore. We've done what we need to do. We should relabel this, though, to be our corner. We should probably be more specific. Top left corner text. Okay, so we've got our text, but some cards will have an image up there. So let's deal with that as well. So we're going to go ahead and hit plus and hit image. We got a big image to start with here, but don't worry, we'll get that fixed right up. So now what we want to do is create, let's relabel this to be top left corner image, like so. Good. And then we need to position it. So we want the left to actually be, we're going to use that center function again, only we're going to get fancier with it. So we want center me X, like so, but we're going to specify the name of this text. So we're going to center it on where that text box is. So I'm going to type top left corner text, like so, putting that in half quotes there. And so now it's going to be, the image will be centered in that little space. Now it's hard for it to do that because our image is huge right now. So we need to fix that. So let's do that next. We'll close this out. We'll go, we're going to change this to maintain aspect ratio by width. And then we're going to specify a width of 150 pixels. So now you can see that it's centering it up there on our text box. So that's exactly what we were looking for. But the last thing that we need to do actually is get our actual image in there that we want to be displayed. So we're going to shrink this down and go to image, and we're going to I could hard code an image in there like draw 4 or something, but that's not what we're looking to do. We want to pull it out of our data set. So what we're going to do is go over here to row, and we're going to select image, and we're going to paste that into this location. So now we've got ourselves the image in here. But you're noticing something. It's displaying the image even though it has some text there. That's not what we want. So what we want to do is make it so it only shows the image if there is no text for the corner. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to change we're going to go to position and size again, and we're going to use a feature we haven't used before and that's conditional rendering. It's called render this layer. So if I turn this off, it is no longer rendered. If I turn it on, it is rendered. But we want to do this programmatically. So here's how we're going to do it. We're going to grab this, and we're going to say the thing we want to do is display it if there is no corner text. So I have it right now where it is corner text. We want to say if there's no corner text. So we're going to change this to not. If not row corner, it will display it. So on this draw 2, there is some text there. But if I went to, let's say, reverse, now it will display an image for us because there is no corner text for the reverse card. So that's where conditional rendering came in. We said if there is no row corner, because we got the not in front of it, then we will display this image. The next thing that we want to do is we don't want this icon to be black. When it's in the corner like that, we need it to be a white. So to do that, we're going to use an effect. So I'm going to close this up. We're going to go to Effects, and I want to use an overlay, a color overlay. So we're going to enable that, and we're going to change our color to be white. So now that icon is white. We do have a problem though, because there is one exception, which is the wildcard has this thing where it should have some color up here. And so we need it to only do this overlay if it's not a wildcard. So we can do this similar to how we did render this layer, and we will click here, and we'll go to row, and we will use the name of the image this time, like so, and we will say row name does not equal wild. So if the row name does not equal wild, this will be true, and we will do this. In this case, it is false because the row name does equal wild, so we get our image up there. But if we go back to our reverse card, it doesn't equal wild, so this value becomes true, and therefore it will colorize it to be white. So that was pretty fancy. That was kind of crazy. I hope that you got it. If not, take a moment here, rewind the video, watch it again, and see if you can work your way through it. If you're still having problems with this sort of thing, don't worry. It is a complex thing, but we can help you out in either the Facebook group for Component.Studio or the Discord channel on the Game Crafters Discord server. So go ahead and join us in one of those two communities, and we can help you out if you're struggling. We've got ourselves the corner up here. We did it right. The problem is we need to do all that work down here again. The good news is that's no big deal at all. So what we're going to do is we're going to go down here, and we are going to copy this, duplicate this layer. So we're going to say top left corner, we're going to duplicate this back to face, and we are going to change it to bottom right corner. And we're just going to rotate that whole layer 180 degrees. So like this. Boom. And now we've got that corner right down there. Didn't have to change anything. So as we go through now, all of our cards have the right things in both the corners. And we didn't have to do much work. So that's pretty cool. I could go in and relabel all these things. I'm not going to do that. Not necessary for this demonstration. Okay, so we've got our corners in place. This is looking pretty good, but we don't have our center done yet, so we need to do that. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go create yet another layer group. You probably guessed it. And we're going to call this one the center group. We will then create some text to go in the center, like so. And we will call this our center text. And we're going to let's do the text first. We'll go in here, we'll grab row, and we are going to use the corner text for that as well. Now you're not seeing it because it's actually up here. It's drawing it. There we go. If we're on a different color, you can see it easier. It's actually drawing it up there because we haven't positioned it yet or colorized it yet appropriately for the center. But the text is in fact there. So let's go on to our style. We're going to do some fanciness with our styles. So the first thing we want is, we created a center style. So we want it to be the big, black lettering. We're going to, of course, do our center and middle to get it, in there where we need it to be. But we're going to do something even fancier because we don't want this to be black. We want it to match the color of the card. So you can actually do composite styles. It's called multiple inheritance. That's a very fancy word for it. But how that works is I could actually type in another style here, just make comma separated list, and the last one wins if there's any kind of complication. So if I could type in red like that, and then I could type in blue, and it's going to be blue because the last one wins. Now we want to be more dynamic than that, so we're going to type in row.color and pull in the color of this card, so that way when we switch between red and green, it's going to automatically have the right color. So we've got our center style and our color, and you can see up here that it has turned row.color into green. So it's center, comma, green. Very simple, very straightforward, but very powerful with what you can do there. So we've got our center, middle, we've got our color in, but we do want to do one more thing here. Because we're about to put the image in here, we do not want to render text when there is an image that is going to go into this center piece. So for that, we're going to go back up here to position and size, and we're going to use our good old render this layer feature. And we're going to go in here, grab row, and we're going to grab the row image. And we're going to do the same thing we did before and put a not in front of that. So if there's not a row image, we will display text. So that's in the case of like the 0 card there's no image. But if we went over here to a reverse card like this, there is an image, so it's not going to display the text anymore because we put this little render this layer thing in there. That's pretty powerful, very cool, but it's exactly what we did up above. So hopefully that's starting to catch for you how that works. And then we're going to move on and put in our image. So we got the center text in where we need it to be. Now we need to put in the center image. So let's go ahead and hit plus. We'll hit image. We need to format this thing. Okay. So the first thing, obviously, that we need to do is actually go into our image and get the correct image in place. So we'll go to row, image, and paste that in there. And so now we're at least getting the right image. But you're probably already seeing a problem. We want to use that color overlay again. We're going to want to color it to be the color of the row. So we need to go into effects. We're going to use color overlay. We're going to turn that bad boy on, and we are going to colorize it to be the row color. So we'll just click this, and boom, we're in there. Of course, that's going to mess up our black cards. So if we look at wild, we don't want that. And if we look at draw 4, that's the other black card. This should be colorful. So this is where we need to do that thing that we did before, where we're going to put it in here for the color overlay. This is going to be true or false depending on different things. So we're going to start off with row.name does not equal wild, just like we did before, right? So if we go back over here and we look at wild, now it's colorful. And we've got some rotation issues with our thing. We can fix that later if we want to. But that's not the important bit. The important bit is we're not doing our color overlay when this is the wild card. But it is still doing it for our draw 4, which is a problem. We want to not do it there. So we can actually do an and in here. So we can say if it's not wild and row.name is not draw 4, then we don't colorize it, which is great. We could do this another way too, though, to make it simpler. We don't have to do this and. We could, instead of using row.name, we could say row.color does not equal black. So it's not going to do it for black, but it will do it if this card was yellow, like so. So kind of up to you how you want to do your conditionals, but I just wanted to show you a couple of quick ways to do all of that stuff. So now we have our full set of cards. We can go over here and look at any of the number cards. We've got those in different colors, right? So we've got blues and sixes and whatever. We've got our draw 2s. We've got our reverse cards. We've got our skip cards, like so. We've also got the 2 black cards, the wild and the draw 4. So that is our example for today. I hope that you enjoyed it. Today we learned a number of different things. We learned how to use a Google Sheets import. We used enumeration. We have used conditional logic with render this layer. We used an effect with color overlay, and we learned how to upload images and create some more complex styles through the use of multiple inheritance. I hope all of that was not too much over your head. If you're finding that this is right up your alley, then great. If it was a little bit of a struggle, you may want to go back to version 2 and then come back to this one. And then I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thanks everybody for watching.